I grew up in a pretty much Southern style Baptist church. What I didn't know at a young age was the difference between a law-based practice of Christianity and a grace-based or relationship type practice. At 18, I went off to Kent State and of course started to see the big world, and what had been a life going down the road, bumping into the side and making poor decisions on each curve became a life of a split road then and going the opposite way. I ended up meeting some gentlemen from a 1% motorcycle club. Their lifestyle became my lifestyle. I had a knack for fighting. I had fought all my life being a biracial kid growing up in the South. And now that I was with the club, this one thing that I had done my whole life as a defense mechanism became something that the club reveled in. They loved it. And you by no means have to participate in a legal activity to ride with a motorcycle club, but there is definitely that pool of members that do, and it became something I enjoyed, I embraced. It took me to a situation where I ended up in a confrontation with a guy, but when my friend beat him up, he pulled a gun on him, and so I stepped in between them, told the guy to put the gun down. He didn't. I broke his arm, took the gun, and I ended up being charged with robbery for taking his gun and assault for hitting him. So I was charged and incarcerated for 20 to 60 years for robbery and assault. I did the time, I did 14 years. Now everything that the club loved about me was exponentially loved. And while going through that, I met a young lady and we dated on and off. So she asked me one night, could you give me a ride over to this church? And I got here at the church to drop her off, and as I looked, there was a motorcycle sitting in the lobby, and you could see it through the door. And I asked her, I said, why is there a bike in there? She said, it might be the pastor's, he rides. And so I walk in and I look at the bike, and I see coming across the hallway, actually, this guy who is bald, has a goatee, no sleeves in his shirt, tattoos all over his arms and everywhere. And it just was such a juxtaposition of what I thought a pastor and church and everything was and what I had always thought and seen it as. My curiosity was just piqued so much. I walk in just to hear and see what's going on with this stuff. Like, what kind of church is this? And oddly enough, I'm there for one sentence. The only thing I hear Pastor Paul say is that grace is God's unmerited love. I closed my eyes and it was like I had this whole lifetime of realization hit me, and Christ spoke to me and said, I've been trying to give you this message your whole life. I took off my cut, my member's vest for the club, and I set it on a chair. And I knew at that moment I just wanted to give my life to Christ. He's there. He's there for me in my pain, in my triumphs, in my depression, in everything. He's there. And he held true on everything. And my daughter has a family, a mother, a father, a home. And Felicia, one of the reasons she wanted to marry me was coming here with me.
When God put it on my heart to start this church, He told me never forget where I found you. When He found me, I was a heroin addict struggling to get off heroin. He set me free, and I've never shot dope since 1994. Statistic for heroin addicts, 5% of heroin addicts are clean after 2 years. I believe Jeff is now 7 years sober, but I think it's important that people know that there are places where people have found help and a year later are not going back onto the streets.
You know, a lot of people, they say, oh, well, it's just a church, it's just a thing. And here's the deal, the building is not what I talk about when I talk about Beyond the Walls. See, the amazing thing is, especially in a city like this, a county like this that's so overrun with a lack of hope, with addiction, with drugs, with violence, a lot of people are cast away and forgotten because everybody thinks they're just like these dead rocks, like they're nothing. Like throw them on the rock pile. Well, the funny thing is this place has become the rock pile, and all those things that were dead rocks, they're now living stones.